get that.
Almost like a politician.
Yeah.
Sort of.
That's the best description. The politician answer. And yeah,
it's the answer you get when you're not getting an answer. That's simple.
Hey, it's Julian from Loan Options. I'm the CEO and founder. Today I'm here with an old friend of mine, a special guest. I'll hand over to you, mate.
Yes, an old friend, mate. I'm Ali Saab from Saab Partners. We're accountants, business advisors, and everything else in between. There's a myriad of things that we do. But yeah, good to see you, old chap, mate. You've definitely grown since I last seen you, mate. The young protege.
Yeah, well, I guess how we met. I'm trying to remember exactly how we got in touch with each other, but I think I was obviously at the auto approved business, and we're doing asset finance, and I think maybe you were exploring asset finance as a bit of an add-on to your clientele or a value add, and we just got talking, and I think there was some good synergy there. We helped service some of your clients, but and then it was just a great relationship. I just love the way that you did business, very transparent, honest, open with your clients, and also with us. And we like to operate the same way. And so, the brand that I represent has changed, but really the person I am is I at least try to be that person who is always dependable, reliable, responsive, honest, open, transparent. So, but yeah, I'd love to hear your story, because you've got nicknames, and basically everybody in the country. I mean, I've never seen a bloke as well connected. But tell us the story. How did you get started? What's your career journey? Tell us everything.
Yeah, well, I guess it's been one hell of a journey, and it's interesting. You look back, and life's all about sort of peaks and troughs. So much so, businesses are as well about peaks and troughs. But I started my career. First ever accounting job was with an international shipping company, and that was just sort of basic entry level into as an undergrad. From there, I was fortunate enough to get offered a job with PwC. Mixed it with the big boys for a few years there, and fantastic place as a place to hone in on a lot of your skills, your professionalism, your communication skills, your business writing skills. I mean, my gosh, the number of times that documents were sent back and forth between partners and myself. So picture partners, and then eventually sort of move into an SME, small to medium-sized accounting firm, because I sort of had a few challenges along the way where you sort of, I guess we all go through a phase where we try to work out what we want with our career. And I think after a certain number of years in the corporate world, you sort of curate all the great things that you learned and all the things that you've picked up along the way, and then you sort of realise, well, why don't I give this a crack myself?
Yep.
So I end up at a suburban accounting firm. So I've sort of gone from the tier ones or the second tier, and then down to the SME space. And the whole idea was to sort of get a pulse of what small business in Australia is doing. And I just found that fascinating because it was such a personalised interaction you had with the SME space, from your family businesses and ones that have sort of started from nothing, that have sort of grown exponentially over the years. So I guess it was the end of 2007 that I decided to give it a crack. I think there's a couple of drivers there that sort of led me there. One was I was working for the smaller suburban practice. Like, I would recommend, hey, let's try this, or what do we do this, or what do we do introduce tech to bypass this sort of process. And they're a great business, great people, and I've got a lot to thank them for in terms of what they've done for me. But I think they were sort of a bit old school, not very receptive to the new ways of doing things. So I said, well, I'll just give it a crack. A little bit foolish perhaps at the time. The GFC was sort of on the horizon, going out to business. And one thing that was sort of the cornerstone of everything was like, okay, I'm leaving this job now. I've got a portfolio of clients that I've been servicing for the last 4 years. There is no one in the world that I will take a single client with me. I built a great relationship with my former employers, and calm as a bitch, mate. What goes around comes around. And much like yourself, right? Nice guys, and this is a phrase I continue to say, nice guys can still finish first.
Yeah.
And those values and those ethics I think that they should be ingrained in all of us in everyday life, have to be translated onto the business field when we do business. So I went.
I think what happens is a lot of people are actually inherently good, but along the way they get trampled and it changes something in them. And then they become super skeptical. They don't trust people. And even myself in my business journey, there's been a lot of moments where I've gone like, the nice guy thing, like maybe it's just not the way to do it, like, because people are just ruthless. When it comes to money, for some reason, it's like human psychology or, of money. They become ruthless animals sometimes. And it's a strange thing to watch, and people that you respect. And then as soon as there's sort of the slightest bit contention over money, you just watch them become a very different person. So the people that have stayed despite being trampled, despite being, sort of kicked while they're down, despite being completely bulldozed in business or whatever, the ones that have stayed good people, they are unicorns now. I can only count probably on one or two hands people that I know that have really been through the ringer and are still loving, caring, empathetic, compassionate people that give without any expectation of receiving, and that reciprocity that, because karma, it is a bitch and it will come and get you if that's what you're putting out into the world.
Absolutely.
But equally, if you are putting good out into the world, it takes a really long time to see the compounding effects of it. But you can build an incredible business, an incredibly loyal team. You can build the best things with that. And so to that degree, nice guys can finish first. They won't finish first immediately. And it may take them 10 years of being a nice guy before they even see a single benefit. But once they start to see it, it's almost like this unstoppable force that, people trust you. Opportunities get put in front of you because that, you've built a reputation for being someone who can be trusted.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, but yeah, sorry, I interrupted you.
No. I mean, look, you're spot on. I mean, I think those challenges that people face and we all face sometimes in business, they sort of reveal or they expose what people really are.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And that then becomes your reference point as to who you don't want to do business with. And that's not to say that it's an arrogant thing that, no, I won't do business with that person, but you'll do business with that person, but your guard is up and you're trying to be 10 steps ahead to make sure that you protect yourself and everything else in between. But and honesty is the best policy. We get taught that as kids.
Yeah.
And somewhere along the way as adults, people's morality and people's shades of honesty sort of get questioned. But I think also people, when they become desperate or their businesses are not in a position of where they should be and there's sort of struggles, they go looking for answers or they go looking for excuses.
Yeah.
And this is where I think sometimes, we need to self-reflect. And a lot of people own it and say, okay, well, why don't we sort of change our course of our business? Let's sit down, let's be pragmatic about it. Let's put a plan. Or we can sit there, and some people will start pointing fingers, hey, you did this and you're the reason for this, or that person or this guy. other reasons for why I'm in this position. So I just think sometimes, as you said, it's a dog eat dog world sometimes, but it doesn't have to be that way. And look, it's important that for me, I know. I mean, even yesterday you mentioned in conversation, and the first thing the gentleman that I was with said, he's such a nice, Julian's such an amazing guy. And,
Yes,
and you know what? I mean, that's legacy.
Yeah.
We all want to leave a legacy behind. We'll get to that probably in more detail, but the legacy doesn't have to be financial.
Yeah.
Legacy can be, gee, that guy's an amazing guy. And you know what? He was successful. He deserved all that, and he worked mighty hard for it. But we digress. So just taking you back to sort of my journey. So I just in line with the ethics and morals, and when I left the last job I had before I went to business, to tell you that they were concerned, they were very concerned. They thought, here we go. And they were all, great people, as I said. Anglo-Australians had never hired a person of Lebanese background. We'll put it that way. And they were, from the Shire. I mean, and this was, and I was working there at the height of the Cronulla riots and all these social things that are happening. And I became their reference point as to, hey, why don't you speak up about these things, and why don't you become a community leader? Why don't you? And so I was like, hang on a second, well, this isn't. This is not my problem. But by virtue of being there during that time, I sort of became a flag bearer in my own way, in my own little world, that I want to make sure that the impression they have of who I am and who we are as children of migrants to this country, that we're actually good, decent, law-abiding people as well. And so when I resigned, my boss at the time, Matthew, was saying, "Hey, what's going on, man? You got to rip my clients to shreds." And I looked him in the eye and said, "Not a single client will I approach. And if anyone does approach, I will contact you and let you know who those clients are." And there were clients that approached, and I will send a text message, "So-and-so's contacted me, please look after them." And not a single client to this day have we taken on board, accepted, or approached. And as years go on by, we then reconnect at our kid's school. And he's on the parents' committee there at Trinity Grammar School, where my kids go, and his son was there at the time, and we sort of rekindle and we reflect, and it was almost like a vindication that I told you, I gave you my word. And I think for him, it's like, I'm really sorry, I didn't believe at the time, but years have passed now, and I respected everything what you said back then. And I can appreciate as well from their perspective, staff member leaving, good portfolio business, maybe, at the time it was about $750K worth of recurring revenue that I was managing for that business. And I think that's important that, you maintain those type of values. But yeah, sort of going to business,
That's so rare. Just before we go into the starting of your own business, that's so rare. I mean, look, I've hired a lot of people and trained a lot of people, and I start to notice this thing that happens when they, some of them do it the right way, and they take the skills and the knowledge that you've given them, and then they, rightly so, feel that they can go out on their own. Like, I mean, no different to what I did, right?
Sure.
I got to a certain point where I felt that the decisions being made before I got into my own business, I didn't have as much control over as I would have liked to. And watching people who have less knowledge about the industry, not as close to the ground and the front line as you are, make decisions that clearly don't make sense, but it becomes really frustrating. And so I took the skills, the knowledge, all that kind of stuff, but I didn't take the clients,
Yeah.
And what I see sometimes is these people you hire, you train them, they take the skills, they take the knowledge, but then they also have this sense of entitlement, like, oh no, that's my client, because you set the loan up for them. It's not your client. You only were introduced to that client because you were a part of this business at the time.
Correct.
And so, I'm aware of that, and we try to, with our team, like create clear pathways for them to, because you can't be naive either, right? You can't expect somebody to want to be an employee for the rest of their life. So what we do is we sort of structure their incentive plan where if they are generating their own business, then they are entitled to that, because that's them going out and prospecting and building their own portfolio, which makes them less reliant on yours. And in some ways, if you can build those pathways to them, they might leave you in some respects, but they're not really. You might still have a commercial relationship, or they might use you to sort of access lender accreditations and whatever, almost like an aggregation model, Saab aggregation model. They don't have to leave you completely because they have something to hide then. Like, oh, if I stay underneath him, he's going to see that I'm writing loans for clients that are his or whatever. So we try and make that very clear, because not everyone is like you, right? In fact, I think you'll find, and you probably know this, it's a smaller percentage than it's definitely the exception, not the rule. Anybody in your position, not anybody, but a large percentage of people in your position would have pillaged and taken, maybe not all of them, but a large percentage of the clients, because it's like, oh, I'm entitled, I'm managing them. I'm like, it's that understanding that, you're looking after and managing these clientele because you're in that business. You may not have been exposed to this type of clientele, or you may not have even met these people if you weren't actually in that business at that point in time. But yeah, so I want to flag that, because it's such an interesting dynamic when you see the shift, and I notice it in people before they probably even realize they're doing it. They start to say my this and my that, and I this and I that, and you start to notice that long before they're even probably thinking about it. Just see the shift, the way they talk about their clients and stuff. It's not like they're talking about it as if like, we did this together and stuff. They start to make the language shifts long before they even like put in a resignation or whatever. It's like, it almost like they start to feel like you have nothing to do with their success.
Yeah.
But that's where the loyalty trait is a really strong one for me. And obviously transparency, integrity, like just general honesty. A generally honest person, honest in all. That's what I mean by generally honest, like honest in all things, not just the words they use, but
through their actions.
Through their actions, would never think to like, I'm going to take all these clients, and we do have some employees where, that somehow got the personal number or something, or, we found them on LinkedIn and message and said, and then they refer them back into the business. So there are people like that. And if you hire for those traits, instead of hiring for who's going to be the number one sales performer, right? Sometimes the highest sales performers are the ones with, I'm not going to say low integrity, but lower integrity. And it's not always correlated, because you do get high performers that are really high integrity, and that's why they're high performers, because people can see and feel that through their actions. But
the hard thing is that some are driven purely by the dollar.
Yeah.
And they're the ones where their integrity will sort of be a bit grey at times. I'm a big believer, and I always say, hire good human beings.
Yeah, we said the exact same thing.
I don't hire superstars.
Yeah.
Because a superstar will compromise integrity, quality to, I guess, build their profile.
Yeah.
And so if someone's just a good human being, even if they're perhaps not as skilled or not as robust in certain aspects of their job as someone who's an outstanding performer, over time they'll build their knowledge base and their skill set and the confidence to compete with those superstars. So it's almost like internally generated goodwill. You sort of generate a good, strong team, harmonious team, which is so important. I guess in your line of work, obviously, revenue is the driver. And obviously, your staff are either leveraging off your clients, or they're running a business within your business, for example. And they sort of feel empowered. And I think that's probably a great way of for staff retention, but also to allow people to flourish.
Yeah, and make them not feel trapped.
Yeah.
Like, so they've got the base salary, they've got the comfort of the base salary, they've got an incentive plan, but then they've got a separate incentive plan which encourages them to hunt their own new clients. That what it does is it opens up new sales channels for our business, but it also prepares them for the real world and shows them that running your own business is not as easy as it sounds or looks. And if we get 2 or 3 really good years out of them before they feel like they have enough skills, enough network, enough profile to go out on their own, we think that's a pretty good tenure where we have enough time to build, people sort of underneath them coming through and have this constant pipeline of good humans. Literally our number one value, and it's on our website, is be a good human.
Yeah.
And we have 7 core values in our business and we hire based on them. And look, there's always people that can lead you to believe that that's who they are, and you don't always get hiring right. But the vast majority of the time we do, because we look for those things. And I'm going to use an example of one of our team members. He's a senior staff member now. I probably trust this guy. I trust him. I trust him with my wife and kids. Right? That's the
extent of the trust.
The extent of the trust. He is such a good man, and he's. I would say right now, I would put him against any software engineer in the country, any data scientist in the country, in terms of skill level, knowledge, problem solving skills, and obviously personality and work ethic as well. But at the time, we hired him as an intern, and he was doing he wanted to do an unpaid internship. And in the interview, I asked him if he knew how to do a certain thing, and the amount of people that say yes, because they got like a little bit of surface knowledge, and they think I'll figure it out on the job.
Fake it till you make it, right?
Yeah, I see it all the time, and I can usually tell when they've done that. He said, I'm just going to be totally honest with you and say I don't know how to do that, but I'll give you my commitment that I'll, in my own time, go and work really hard to make sure that if that's what you need, I'll be able to do it. And I just thought that level of, like, basically he self-sabotaged in that meeting to ensure that he maintained his own integrity, to ensure that he wasn't telling a lie. He said, I don't know how to do that. And if that's the skill that you're looking for, it's an internship. I wasn't expecting him to know everything, but the fact that he didn't just lie because he had a bit of surface knowledge, which he could, how am I supposed to know? He could have said yes and then went home that night and learned the basics.
But I think his raw honesty,
it surprised me.
Yeah, I mean, but as a person who employs staff and is looking for certain qualities in people when you're on the hunt for your staff, it's that honesty is a good human being.
Yeah,
he said it as it is. Like, he didn't sugarcoat it and try to put ice on the cake
or dance around it.
Yeah,
because you see that too. Some people don't want to lie,
and but they're
so very
transparent.
Good at evading. You're like, we just spoke for half an hour and you didn't answer one of my questions.
Yeah, almost like a politician.
Yeah,
sort of.
That's the best description. The politician answer. It's
the answer you get when you're not getting an answer. That's simple. But no, look, I mean, obviously he's been with you now for several years, and it's refreshing to also hear that people are honest and real. In this day and age, unfortunately, self-promotion, and we're in the digital age, here we are on a podcast, right? But also social media and all these sort of avenues where people can parade themselves on how amazing they are. And it's a dangerous thing because sometimes certain people will oversell how amazing their skill set is, how amazing they are at whatever it is that they do. And unfortunately, it's kind of dangerous as well, because when they're in the real world and they're faced with a situation where they need to solve a problem or come to the fore with the skill set that they purport to have, or to even be the person who they purport to be, they're going to get found out.
Yeah.
And life will teach us all a lesson and always continuously teach us lessons. I mean, we learn. I mean, I learn a lesson every single day. I mean, I'm getting old in the tooth. I've got the grades coming through here. Got a few years on you, Julian. But it's about being real. And just, being honest with yourself.
That part, you took the words out of my mouth. The reason why this guy now is one of the top software engineers in the country, and he doesn't want to be a software engineer. That's the honest truth. He said that, I only want to do this for a certain period. He wants to solve problems. And that's just like an enabler of him being able to solve problems. Like, I'm talking real problems. Like, he wants to work in sort of the medical industry and
Wow.
actually work on real problems, medicine, and things that help people. But the most important part of why he's so successful is because he remains honest to himself. He knows that he doesn't know everything, and he's in this constant state of curiosity of trying to get better, and being honest with himself is part of that. So anyway, we sort of digressed, but you start your own business. What's gone through your mind? You sort of probably one day you just turned up, and maybe you're in a sort of small office and go, what do we do now?
No.
Tell us that.
So I started off from home.
Okay.
And so my wife had just given birth to a set of twins. And so I pulled a pin at the same time my wife was home looking after newborn twins. So I thought maybe a bit of flexibility to assist her with the twins. But unbeknown to me, there was another accountant in the surrounding areas that will say he had fallen on his sword. He had run some sort of Ponzi scheme, and all of a sudden the word got out that I was in business, and phone starts ringing, and all of a sudden people are making inquiries to become clients. I've had as you know, I've got a reasonably good network. I've always had one for whatever strange reason, and so from there, a trickle of clients started sort of coming in, and I was just operating out of my study at home, and people would turn up to the house, and after about a month and a half, I got twins in the background, and I thought, no, this is not what I want. So I ended up leasing out an office, and took a leap of faith and said, well, nothing ventured, nothing gained. It's that simple. What's the worst case can happen? I'll try this out for 12 months, and if this thing fails, I'll just go back to employment. I was on a cushy salary, 6-figure salary, car allowance, and all the bells and whistles. It's a pretty cruisy job as far as I'm concerned. So I thought, if it fails, well, that's my insurance policy. So, boy, was I in for a rude shock and for a roller coaster of a ride. Building clients were coming on board, but always conscious of the fact that if a client was to leave their accountant and come to me, then and they started doing that at a click of a button or then click of a finger, then they would leave me. So I was sort of like, okay, well, I need to be cautious here. I need to make sure not to give them a reason to leave. So, in service, I mean, anyone that knows me, I'm a perfectionist, and people come to us for a service, and if I can't deliver that service and deliver it well, someone else will. It's that simple. And so I was the receptionist, I was the admin person, I was invoicing, the accounts person, everything under the sun. But at the same time, it was exhilarating. I've got this independence now. I sort of, it's like make or break. Like you live or die by your own decisions. And it was exciting, but slowly but surely you sort of come to the realization, hang on a sec, I don't have any processes here. There's no systems here. I don't have the means for it. Haven't got the headspace for it. Haven't got the time for it. And
there wasn't ChatGPT to go and write procedure.
No Copilot. None of this stuff, right? And so I learned very, very quickly that, and I was sort of always, I wasn't in it for the money. Like, yes, I wanted to be something where it gives me a bit of a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And part of the reasoning of going into this business was, I had a sister who was a single mum, and I saw some of her struggles, and I thought, well, maybe if I go into business, I'll hire her, and she can come and work with me, and I'll give her sort of a get out of jail card, and sort of and 16 years later, I mean, on Sunday, it'll be 16 years since we opened the doors of the office. She's not part of the business, but I still obviously, that was sort of the inspiration. I mean, she's gone off and established a career for herself and kicked some goals. So, but going back to those early days, like, because I wasn't driven by the money. And I think it's almost like the old cultural thing. Oh, don't worry, I'll invoice you later. Don't worry, it's always, I was always too shy to ask for, to be paid or to chase an invoice that I'd issued. And my invoices were sporadic. Payments were even more sporadic. And, we started invoicing quarterly. But by then you've amassed 3 months of work and, you're going to get paid on a quarterly basis. So we sort of learned how to refine.
Yeah.
And I remember, and it was extremely challenging. I mean, and sort of a lot of stuff I sort of didn't share too many people, but the first few years in the business, it was tough going, amassing clients, but there was no cash flow.
Yeah.
And I remember going to my wonderful dad. I left work. I think I was 18 months into the business, and the cash flow was sort of one of its worst periods. And I'd gone to Dad, and he's sitting in the backyard. My dad's just one of these guys that the whole world will crumble around him. They'll just say, "Don't worry, mate. It's a don't worry, mate."
Yeah.
Okay. So I've gone to see him. He's sitting in the backyard on his shoe shed. God love him. And I'm just sort of venting because I don't really vent. I'm a very solution-driven person. I've got a really strong resolve, and I'll come back to this saying in a sec, but about solutions. And so I went to my dad and said, "Dad, it's not worth it. I don't know why I'm doing this. It's punishing. I'm barely making ends meet. I'm owed all this money. No one's paying. I'll just go back and just work." I've got a cushy salary, all this bells and whistles I had. And he looks at me, and I'm there sort of looking for a solution. Just give me something, give me some stimulus to go away with. And he takes a bit of a whiff of the Hubby Bubbly, the shoe shade. He says in Arabic, "Ghaymi ubtumru," which means the grey cloud will pass.
Yeah, wow.
I looked at him and I was furious. Like that's all you can tell me. Like I didn't say it to him, obviously, in my mind. Like, is that all you can tell me? Like I've come, like I need some sort of, something to go away with. Like why don't you do this? Why don't you change this?
Yeah.
Just a sounding board, right? And so I left there, and I was pissed. Like, I'm not going back to him to get advice ever again. And I never, just me being a stubborn person that I am at times. But fast forward all these years, how right was he?
Yeah.
And every problem or every challenge or every setback we have, be it personal, be it health, be it business, be it family, be it friendships, be it relationships, and they're transferable to all parts of life. There's a grey cloud, but that grey cloud will dissipate.
Yeah.
And that's probably, the most basic
deep
advice, but so deep.
It's so deep. And there's so many layers to that too, because it is true, there's so many variations of that. There's light at the end of the tunnel, it's darkest before dawn, always darkest before dawn. Like there's so many different variations of that, but each one of them, like just when you think about it and when you think, I was talking to someone yesterday and we're talking about a song and it was something to do with rock bottom, like, talking about being rock bottom. And I think like it, as much as there's been ups and downs and like some of the downs have been really down, in our business and in my career and in my personal life, I don't think there's ever been a point in time where I thought there is no way I can come back from this. And I think when people talk about like being absolutely rock bottom, it's like when you maybe, even the thought of losing everything, right? At the time you might have been thinking, I'm going to lose my business, maybe lose my house, like whatever. Because, when you start a business, you're taking these risks. All the things that you've built up in your cushy job, all of these things that you take for granted. It might all disappear.
You're all in
You're all in
every aspect.
And if you're not all in, you're almost guaranteed not to succeed. You know, there's a lot of startups these days that go and raise venture capital and all this kind of stuff. They're not taking real risks the way that, you know, someone who's all in on themselves and, you know, giving up a job and, you know, maybe even like they're just not as all in as you know, someone who's trying to bootstrap something, and the wages bill is there every week and you got to pay it. You got to make sure that, you know, your staff don't, you know, it's challenging. It's very challenging. But that feeling of like, I can't see a way out of this. You know, when you hear something like the grey cloud will pass, or something to that effect, I think time does solve some of those problems. It's time, and you know, sometimes you've got you know, the problem is actually a ticking time bomb. So, you know, if you don't act quickly or do something quickly, you could exacerbate the problem, or you could put yourself in a situation where if you have left it and just sat back and thought, oh, the grey cloud will pass. So there's so many layers to it.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, you can take that the grey cloud pass and not do anything about it, and so you've got to act on it.
Yes.
And the hardest thing is I keep on talking about this helicopter view.
Yeah.
And so you need to sort of step away from what you're doing on a day-to-day basis in that moment. Okay, how can I find a solution to this? And so you've got this overarching view of what the hell am I doing? Okay, why don't I give myself the advice that I'm giving my clients the advice? And so you end up then trying to be objective and critical of what you are and how you're doing things. And so, you know, that's you know, I now say, I know there are times we need to act and time is of the essence, but I also, as you experience a lot more in life and you live life, there's a whole bunch of sayings that I don't know if I've coined them, I don't know if I can copyright them, but time is your best friend. It's another saying that I say always. So when faced with a problem, just step back, let it go, wait, sleep on it, and the solution will come to you. And it takes time and clarity sometimes just to see what that problem is.
I use a similar one, and I don't think I made this up because it seems like it's been there since the beginning of time. But I always say, like, water needs to find its level, because, like, let's just say a wave, right? You're in a boat or you're on whatever, and then like a boat comes past you, and then you feel the waves ripple.
The buoyancy.
But over time, it finds its level, it settles down, and then it's very clear what decision you should make.
Yeah.
Or it's almost so obvious, you're like, I can't believe I didn't think of that. So same thing with a bathtub. If you move in the bathtub, the water's splashing around, water might go on, and that's the chaos. But if you allow it and you just stop moving, you just stand still for a minute, the water will find its level again, and then you can decide how best to move forward. So
and just getting clarity.
Yeah.
Getting absolute clarity. I mean, yeah, and I think sometimes as well, there's a big aspect to the mental side of running a business and finding solutions is, I think it's really understated. And recently, especially recently, there's been, I know it's sort of digressing, but there's been some challenges for a lot of businesses post-COVID, increasing labour costs, increasing materials, inputs in a lot of these businesses, rents and whatever else in between. And so,
we were only just talking about coffee 2 seconds ago.
Absolutely. And so the issue is that, we can sort of set up a new branch of our business where we can hire a clinical psychologist who will, who can be utilised to talk to our clients and look at their challenges and look at what things are affecting them on a daily basis, because we've now become like a sounding board, and we have been for a very long time. The relationship with the accountant is so intimate. There are things that we know about not just their businesses but their families and how it all sort of fits together. So I think sometimes when there are these challenges and these decisions to be made, not everyone unfortunately has the mental strength or the mental capacity. I won't say capacity; it's probably a bad choice of word, but just the clarity of the mind to make those decisions. And they sort of get bogged down in the worry and the what ifs and all these, and then the grey area. And there are times where, again, another saying that I say a lot is, in life there are no problems. There's only a lack of solutions. The solutions exist, but we're not willing to take the solution where we're worse off. We solve the problem, but we're not willing to take a solution where we're worse off. And so sometimes we all need to take it back and say, you know what, if I dwell on this issue for far too long in my business, I need to cut my losses. I need to make that call now. I'm taking the solution where, yes, I've lost X, Y, Z amount of dollars, but I'm not going to bleed in this business that isn't going to go belly up, for example. But also you can transfer that into personal relationships and all other things in life as well. But, it's, with problem solving and solutions, and it's such a key thing in everyday business and life. But I digress, as you probably know. I can talk underwater, so my apologies.
No, it's great. There's a lot of wisdom in there, and I think anyone who's listening can probably go, actually, you know what? If you're sort of in the heat of the moment, you realize how many bad decisions you make in the heat of the moment. Sometimes you do need to take a step back, and it could mean that you sort of close your computer for a couple of days, and
absolutely,
or maybe whatever's causing you the problem, right? If you're just staring at the problem nonstop, it's just going to continue to put you in that fight or flight or that sort of survival mode. And I think when people can step away from that, that's when they're going to make clearer decisions and things will be more obvious. And I always come at problems from the point of view that everything is my fault, like take extreme ownership, extreme accountability for everything. And when you do that, I think that helps as well. It's like, even if, I didn't cause the issue, it could be staff related or whatever, like what could I have done better? Could I have provided better training? Could I have made sure that the instructions were clear? Could I have spent more time with that person to make sure they clearly understand? How can I stop this from happening again? Like you just go through that standard systematic approach to a problem, and eventually what you'll find is that you're going to get to the solution. And yes, a lot of the times you have to take the step back, and you don't want to do that.
Correct.
Because it's like, I came this far, I don't want to go backwards. And some people it's the optics of admitting defeat or something like that, or it's the ego or whatever it is. But it's better than the alternative. And the alternative is if you continue down that path, you're not going to have a business, and that defeat will be bigger than the one that you're currently facing, or that step backwards will be bigger than the one that you're facing. Because if you're in business, you have a responsibility not just to yourself, if it's your business, as the founder, as the the managing director, whatever your position is, but you have a responsibility to your people as well. They have mortgages, they have families, they have things that your responsibility as well as to yourself is to them, to make sure that they have a sustainable, and sometimes that means that you've got to make hard decisions. And if you're a good person, you struggle with those hard decisions. I think if you're the ruthless dictator, you probably don't feel business is business, and you can easily separate. For people who are a bit more empathetic, those decisions are so much harder to make.
Absolutely,
they really are so much harder to make. You've got a connection with this person or this this company or this partnership or whatever the problem is, right? You've got a connection with it, and but
we start to become like a family.
Yeah,
and more often than not, if you've got good people who are colleagues of yours, I mean, this whole thing about I'm the employer, you're the employee, I mean, that's just bullshit, right? They're our colleagues. We spend a lot of time with them day in, day out. We're on their journey in life as well.
Yeah.
And if we're not, then we're out of touch and we have no empathy. And there's one word you mentioned in the last passage, one 3-letter word you said was ego.
Yeah.
And so, and I'm big on this where, a lot of problems remain unresolved, be it as a business dispute, be it in any aspect of any problems, the ego gets in the way of not being able to solve it because you, for whatever reason, whether my observations, I observe a lot. I talk a lot, but I observe a lot as well. And my observation is that a lot of self-made businesses, the danger in those businesses is the leader in that business, because they are the head honcho, and they've built this business and they sort of become something. The biggest risk to that business sometimes is their ego.
Yeah.
Because that at times will cloud their decision making, and it's a win at all costs type of mentality. But if you can dial that down and say, okay, well, I'm not driven by my ego, but I need to make a tough decision here. I need to use a bit of empathy. I need to be fair. But I also need to do what's in the best interest of the business, but also don't want collateral damage where people's lives are affected. So that's so important. So
yeah, that's very true. Well, very well said. I think sometimes the strongest part of the business or the growth of the business or whatever leads that person to believe, and it happens to the best of us, right? But leads that person to believe that, they're always going to be right, or whatever it might be, right? And that's the danger, because the biggest strength can easily become the biggest weakness as well.
Definitely.
So yeah, very well said, mate. Very well said. So you're going through these times. You have this chat with your dad. What happens after that?
It's all a bit of a blur at times, but look, you if you have that fire inside you, and you've got determination, and I think it's just wanting. It's not about wanting to win, but wanting to make something work, and all the fear of failure, probably more so. The fear of failure then becomes a driver. Okay, if I go down, I want to go down fighting. If this business doesn't work, I want to make sure I've given it my all. And just through sheer hard work, I mean, I was speaking to my kids recently and said, like, you probably don't see me doing the 7 days a week what I used to do. And I used to come home from work at 6 p.m. And back then, it's not like now you can work from anywhere. So I leave work, and I was quite fortunate that the office was close to home. I'd leave work at 6 p.m, go home for a couple of hours, see the kids, help out, do whatever I need to do as a family, and come back to work at 8:30 p.m. and grind until 1 a.m. and do it 3 or 4 nights a week, and work on a Sunday evening, prepping up for Monday. So I just think there's an education piece in just hard work, perseverance, hard work, and just never giving up. But you also need to have your smarts about it as well. Like you've got to be open to change. The only constant in business is change. The only constant in business is change. So if you're not evolving, you're dissolving. That's simple, right? So you've got to open your mind to doing things differently, embracing technology. I mean, for us right now in our business, I mean, one of the biggest drivers in our business is tech.
Yeah.
The way in which we engage with our clients, our onboarding, our communication with our clients, it's all AI enabled. It's all tech enabled, right? And so, I mean, we've pretty much made our admin person 3/4 redundant with the aid of technology, right? But she's got skill set she's picked up, and she's doing other things for the business. So, so in coming out of that quagmire of this hamster wheel, you start sort of thinking about, okay, what can I do? And you start hiring. And I mean, we, trickle of a part-time staff member was initially employed, then another admin person. And so you slowly start building, but I was always conscious of being conservative in my approach. The old days where, if you get from zero to hero in your business, where you sort of scale up real quick, then the fall's going to be just as quick. So slow and steady wins the race type approach. Take small bites of the cherry as you go. And so there's certain things where you sort of try to do things in a sequential way, but also having, opening your eyes to doing things differently. One of the things that and I remember I was approached by, I was at an accounting conference somewhere, and I was approached by one of the media arm of the organisation who wanted to do a feature article on me. And sort of, I was in two minds whether or not to do the article. In the end, I didn't do the article because I thought I had a bit of a competitive advantage over my clients with what I was doing. So I had a client at the time who had a gym, and she had come into the office and she had a whole bunch of paperwork. And she was very disorganised at the time. But one of the pieces of paper that was on the meeting room table was an application for a direct debit form. So I just grabbed it as we were in the meeting. So I looked at the form and noted down the company name who was providing the direct debits. And in line with the fact that the business was growing, I didn't want to go chasing my money. I didn't want to go asking for it because it's sort of like, how do you maintain a relationship? But hey, I need my money now. And so being a person that values relationships over the dollar sign, I didn't want to push that envelope to ruin relationships. And I didn't know how to, change my approach in chasing our debtors. And so I decided to set up direct debits for the business. And this was, probably 10 years ago, right? And I guess the initial reaction from my class was, what do you mean you're going to do direct debits? You think you're a gym? And I said, yeah, I'll keep your business fit. Cheeky response. And whenever we had sort of an objection to it, a simple approach was, hey, unfortunately, it's company policy.
Yeah.
And I'm conscious of the fact that I don't want to be in the mud to have those tough conversations.
Yeah.
And so the admin side would say, well, that's company policy. This is what we do for all of our clients. And at the time, it was approached. I said, wow, I don't think it's groundbreaking, but it's a solution.
But also, if you're a business owner, you don't want the big bill.
No.
You don't want the one big bill every quarter.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
If it's coming out of your account weekly, even take it weekly.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to feel it when it gets to the end of the quarter. Correct. It's the same thought process you tell businesses to provision for tax, GST, all that kind of stuff. It's no different. If you don't provision for it and then you get your BAS and it's 180 grand or something, like, it's a lot of money. But if you're provisioning for it every single week, whatever that number is, 15 grand a week or whatever, then it's you know what I mean? Like,
it's common sense. It's part of your budget, right? And so clients don't get a big surprise at year end, because on top of their year end tasks that your financial reports you're preparing, there's a big tax bill. And by the way, here's a bit of icing on the cake. Here's our invoice. So again, you don't want to be in that position where, well, we can't pay you because we got this tax bill now. So how do I overcome that? And this is a streamlined approach. And if direct debits fail, then, in the worst situations, so we can't continue working for you until we sort of get this back online. Or you sort of say, hey, look, there's been a couple of direct debit. But at the same time, one of the things was like, I've never known to see a business bank account empty.
Yeah, that's right.
Especially when you break it down to a monthly fee.
Yeah.
As opposed to a quarterly or annual fee. So that process, but even like internally when we send out correspondence with people to sign and give us approval, it's all through, and so over time you just keep on refining your processes. And I remember the business was a struggle for a good 7 years, I'd say. I remember I was in Singapore, of all places, and with my late brother-in-law, and he used to always check on me and say, how's it all going? And for the first time I said to him, this was 7 years into the business, I said, it's going really good. He said, have you overcome some of those challenges? I said, yeah. He said, what'd you do? I was just stunned. I said, I actually don't know what I've done. Because I think what happens is that there's so many little solutions, so many little things that you're doing on a day-to-day basis and refinement. I had to pause and reflect, because there's so many things that happen every day that we're putting out little fires and we're changing this process, or we're changing the way we deal with things. And so But obviously there are a lot of things that I've done.
Yeah, incremental improvements, iterating
Yeah,
that process. One thing we've started doing fairly recently, and it's a game changer, is we've started creating a change log for every single change we make. Because in business, sometimes you make a change and it goes well, and ideally you're making data-driven decisions about whether they're going well and doing A/B tests and things like that. But something very simple you can do is make a change, put the date and timestamp. Could be in a spreadsheet, doesn't even have to be high tech. But make note of what you changed in that month, and what sort of you're focusing on, and what the areas that you're sort of pushing the team on are, or any changes you make, and then see how it pans out. And if it goes really well, then you can obviously double down on that decision, or you can continue. But also, if it goes backwards, conversion rates drop because you've got this new sales process, or you changed SMS templates that go to the clients, or email templates that go to the clients, open rate drops, or whatever. Now you go, okay, well, let's roll it back. And Jeff Bezos actually talks about two kinds of decisions. And so I couldn't have agreed more with it. Is that there's some decisions that fundamentally change the business so much that you can't easily roll them back. And then there's other decisions that you can easily go, we're doing it this way now, we're going to try it. And if it doesn't, we're just going to do it that way and go from the left path, and then reverse gear, and then go the right path. And those decisions, you should make them very quickly, and you should measure them and use data to see if they're making the right decision. The ones that may affect things that you can do untold either damage or good to the business, but there's no way to roll them back, like something that might impact the culture of the business.
Yeah.
If you're talking about rolling out a new incentive structure, or something where you're going to split the team into two, or something where it's like, okay,
changing the actual dynamic of
you're changing the dynamic of the business. And if you don't do it well, and if you don't put enough thought into what impacts this decision will have, what can happen is you create a two-tiered, let's talk about splitting the team. You'll have a two-tiered structure in your business, which creates a hierarchy without you even knowing, and then creates resentment between the teams because, one's seen like more skilled or more beneficial, and one maybe gets better quality leads, or those sorts of decisions you really have to think about, because you can't easily, once you've done that, you can't roll that back. You've created, you can in theory say, oh, we're not doing that anymore, but you've already created the division. You've already created the resentment. You've already partitioned the team into two groups. And even if you roll it back and it's one big team again, they'll always see each other as this was the group one and this is group two, or, division one or division two. So those kinds of decisions, and that was just because, sort of on the spot.
Change management. It's managing change.
Track the changes you make. If they go good, perfect. You know exactly what date and time you rolled them out. And if they don't go good, or you have a bad month, look at what you changed that could have put you in that position, and go, maybe you put the direct debit thing in place, right? You go, okay, July 1st, whatever, 2014, 2015, whenever it was, we're doing direct debits from now. And then all of a sudden you saw all these people give you notice period.
Yeah.
You go, direct debits. Yeah. Let's roll that back. All right, no direct debits.
Yeah.
Most people aren't going to object to that. But if they did, at least you knew what change you made.
Absolutely.
So that's what we've been doing. It's fairly recent, but I think this is the best way for us to really understand, when we are making changes, are we doing them for the right reasons? Is it just for the sake of change, or is this actually having a meaningful impact? Because you don't want the team to feel like they can't get in a rhythm as well. If you're making so many changes, they're just like, can you just let me do my job? You know?
Look, we had our practice migrated away from MYOB about 2.5 years ago, and one of the things so for us, MYOB was it wasn't just off the shelf MYOB. It's a practice management software and what have you, and we were waiting for them to go to the cloud. And we keep waiting and waiting, and then we get these awards for being a diamond, platinum, whatever it is, partner. And so they dangle the carrot for you, take your photo, you look amazing. But in the end, as much as I had some amazing relationships with our BDM there and with the people at MIB, we had to make a decision for the business. And the only way, and because the flashing light was technology is changing, and Xero had some amazing connectivities with a whole gamut of programs that we desperately needed and wanted. And we wanted to change the way we did things internally. So we spent, I'd say, a good 8 months revolutionising what we do. And clients have noticed, like, you guys are very tech savvy now. We've noticed everything's a bit different, the way you guys do. And that's also, it's allowed us to interact with our clients much more seamlessly. It allows us to cover our backside as well, because everything has an audit trail from when they open a document to when if they haven't signed, we can see it. And when a client says, hey, I didn't receive it, well, we can see you opened it. For example. But what we didn't estimate was it wore down the team, because all these changes, as much as the team was receptive to it and they were open to it, and there was training and there was all these things happening internally, I think they're saying we just want some time to breathe. Like, we have all these competing commitments to our clients, and all these different silos of client portfolios we have. We just want a year where we just breathe. And so the last 12 months has been that year of breathing and exhaling and just sort of treading softly. And I think I probably underestimated the effect that would have on everyone. Potentially, even though we had all the tools to run a real slick operation for the back office, it sort of affected people's productivity initially, and also there just so many things happening, conflicting priorities with clients and our processes. So, like, thankfully, we're sort of at a point in time now we're sort of at a stage where we want to level up again. So 12 months of breathing space, reassess. It's sort of calm again. We're moving office on Monday, back to the CBD. And I've made sure that that's going to be the most seamless process possible. And I'm big on people, systems, processes. And so my staff will bring their laptops and nothing else to the CBD. We are paperless. So all it is just we're keeping our existing office in southern Sydney, but also we've got quite a bit we're doing in town, quite a bit of work that we're picking up. So now it's like, okay, the next phase is where we've got data scientists, Power BI, dashboards that we're doing for clients, and the game's changing. And we need to be ahead of the curve.
Business intelligence is important.
And if you're not doing that, in 5 years from now, you'll be out of business, I think. Well, not necessarily out of business, but you're not going to be relevant the way in which we think we are. And so now we're sort of managing that change as well, so that our clients have this need now where it's real time, and so we need to be able to. And I think people have become a lot more demanding and needing now because of how business is operating today, and just this day and age, it's in it now. Data's available. Everything's at our fingertips, and so for us, the extension of that is now tech in dashboards, in consulting clients and going to their businesses. And this is the beauty of what we did with our business. Like, now we're transferring what we did to our business
into theirs.
Like, okay, so how can we automate your processes and remove this duplication of processes?
It's like taking the business from being just tax advice to like full consulting.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. And that's amazing, because it's the amount of businesses that, I mean, reporting is probably the number one thing. Like, there's a saying that, if you can't measure it, then you can't improve it. And how many businesses don't have line of sight with live data? I'm not talking about run a report once a month, and see how you went. I'm talking about like
in your face every day.
Yeah, in our business, we have live dashboards, but also even if people don't log into the dashboard, every morning and every evening, they get the reports delivered in a beautiful, simple, easy to understand report, leaderboards, who's tracking where, how the business is performing. I believe in giving your staff all the way down, visibility on how things are going, because then you don't have to micromanage people. There's a self-police. When you have leaderboards or, there's an element of competition that comes out naturally in people.
Yeah.
No one wants to see themselves as the lowest sort of revenue contributor or the lowest, it doesn't matter what it is. Maybe it's customer service that you're measuring. No one wants, or how many tips, if you're in hospitality, how many tips each, server receives. You want to be the lowest tip receiver?
Of course not.
No, of course not,
I mean, healthy competition is great.
Yeah.
But also you're taking them on a journey with you.
Yeah. And then the decisions that you make in the business is the decisions, let me just try and think of the best way to word that. If you're going to measure something, it's ideally because you want to make a decision on how, from that point onwards, how you're going to improve that metric. So look at the key scorecard items for your business. What are the things that move the needle? You could have a dashboard that shows you, whether people's shoelaces were tied or not. What's the point? So don't present useless data. Present data of things that move the needle for the business, so your team can understand the levers that they can pull. That might, if in a hospitality business, it might be how many dessert upsells, right? This increases, here's the margin on dessert, here's the blah, blah, blah. Show them the margin on each product category. Like, all right, so every time if we sell dessert and your conversion rate is currently 10% because everyone's full, well, if you increase that and 3x it, and so now 3 out of 10 people get dessert, here's what it does to the bottom line. So show them almost, there's a book or this thing about missing millions, and it's not looking at sort of the data in a normal way. It's looking at opportunity cost.
Yeah.
Right. And for every time you don't upsell dessert, by the end of the month, the compounding effect of that is 100K in revenue or 50K in revenue, or, you missing out on bonus, or you missing out on the opportunity for us to hire you for overtime and get paid those penalty rates and those things.
It's like when, they say it's not about attracting more customers into your cafe, right? It's about how can you make more revenue from your existing customers. I think that's transferable to a lot of businesses.
Yeah.
The opportunity is there. The relationship is there. They trust your product. They trust the service. But there's an opportunity to, and I hate the word upsell because it's a sort of derogatory term.
Yeah.
But there's an opportunity for you to showcase a product that the customer would enjoy.
Yeah, there's a sales trainer that refuses to use upsell. He says upservice. How can we upservice our clients?
I like that.
And I like it too. I mean, it makes sense. Like for whatever reason, sell is a dirty word because you associate it with like a sleazy used car salesman or something. But the reality of all businesses, yours included, where it's a service business, is that there's some element of sales. You need to be able to, let's say this, you're investing in a data scientist and you're going to build all these beautiful BI dashboards, business intelligence dashboards for clients who want it. But you still have a responsibility to explain to that business owner why he should invest in paying for that service as well, So there's some element of sales.
Yeah, I mean,
in just about everything.
Look, it has to add value to the client. And for us, if the client's in the know, and as you said, they've got clear visibility of their business, then they're going to be, it's going to make our job easier as well. Because we can have those discussions. We can keep our finger on the pulse with them. Pardon me. And we can actually be their partner, entrenched with them on the ground as well. So, but going back to sort of sales, it's a subtle thing.
Yeah.
I'm not a salesman, but if there's something that your business can benefit from, and we can facilitate that, or provide that, then sure. But the client needs to have a need for it.
Yeah.
To as you said before, to provide a dashboard that tells them the number of shoelaces that were tied in Timbuktu, right? Which is totally irrelevant to their business. I mean, we lose credibility overnight for it.
Yeah.
And also, if that's not add value to their business, what's going to happen is if their business performance then is hampered because they're receiving the wrong indicators, the wrong KPIs are being brought to the fore, then those levers are going to be the complete wrong levers to make decisions in those business. So therefore, business failure may be as a result of our incompetence or our negligence. So that's something that, for us, it's front and center. We provide a service, not just a service, but there's a knowledge aspect to our service, much like yourself. If someone comes to uses your platform, uses your brokerage, it's yes, there's the technology, but also there's the astuteness and the knowledge and the experience of the broker that's working in-house, that's assisting your client. So yeah, it has to be relevant.
You told me before, I don't know if you, but I'm just going to use the word. I don't like using it because, like I said before, rock bottom is, when you think about what that actually means, it's very hard to convince me if you still have your health and your family that you've actually hit rock bottom. So you're going to have challenges in business, but if you could, let's say the business fails and you leave with your health, your reputation, and your family, and your family's health, more importantly, then you haven't really hit rock bottom. What you've hit is your ego's been damaged, and you need to put your tail between your legs and apply for a job and start again.
And there's nothing wrong with that at all.
There's nothing wrong with that. That's it. That's more so your ego being damaged.
Absolutely.
But you told me where it was like a bit of a dark point. You couldn't really see the way through, and you were looking for some guidance and stuff. But let's talk about some of the good times as well. What are some of the beautiful memories of the business where you feel like that was maybe a turning point, or maybe that united the team and everyone started pulling in the same direction? Give us some of that.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think there's many of those moments, and sometimes we get clouded and we sort of don't appreciate those moments. But I honestly believe, I had a meeting once with, and much like yourself, I like to interact with people who have been on similar journeys, or people who've got experience in business or are successful in their lives and what they do. And this guy was a partner at a major accounting firm who I know. And I said, how do you have the time to just gallivant around Sydney and come and catch up with me for a coffee? And he said, well, you need to corporatize your business. And no true word, as a key person in the business, I was so involved, and I still am involved in day to day. I mean, I'm still at the forefront, but I've got an amazing team. And I think there's been some key sort of appointments of key staff who I actually don't refer to them as my staff. They're family.
Yeah.
And when you harness this whole, relationship with everyone, where you show them through, as you said before, through actions, not through words that are worthless, but that they're valued, then it's a seamless process. And so, I'm just going to clear my throat. Sorry.
No, all good.
I talk too much. That's what happens. But and so and as we started building our team, I mean, Prue's been with us for 10 years. We celebrated her 10 years.
Wow.
3 or 4 weeks ago. My sister Faye, who you've had interactions with, she's been there for 9 years, coming up to 10 in January next year. Michael, I'm not sure if you've come across Michael. He's been there for nearly 8 years. And so we've got this. These are key people. Gabriella for 6 years, and obviously we've got an offshore team now. We've got the team is sort of expanding, but it's that key family components that I think we've struck a really good chord. And it's like our office. It's sort of akin to being at home. I mean, the kitchen in the workplace is so important. where we'll have brunch on a Friday and we sit around the table and we'll get the El Jannah and sit there and everyone's dipping there, And so there's a real, honestly, like it's, I think I'm absolutely blessed with the team that we have. And I guess reflecting the opposite way, I'd like to think that they're also blessed with me also as a leader amongst leaders. Because one of the things I always say, like, treat your people the way that you never got treated.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that I was mistreated in any workplace, but I think there are things that we take away from each workplace that we thought, that could have been better.
Yeah.
And so I think one of the great successes is the team we've built. That's, I think, really high on the achievements, because they're just good people. They're on the journey. There's no bitchiness in my office.
Yeah.
There's no backbiting. There's no competition between them. They just get what we're about, and it's just a brilliant place to be a part of. I think that's one thing. The other thing is I think when off the back of corporatizing your business is like, okay, so everything's about systems, people, processes. And so when I sort of had the clarity to step away and to get out of the scrum, that allowed me to really start sort of turning the screws and making correction and adjustments in the business. And that's probably, I'd say, 8 years ago, where, in 2016, I think around about there, where I started really driving it rather than being so involved in the transactional. I'm still involved in a lot of the day-to-day aspects, but I've also got the latitude to think in a way as a business person, how to better this business, for both for my clients, for my staff, and also for myself as well. Because as you get older, there's also you want longevity.
Yeah.
So doing those, 60, 70 hours a week, it's not always going to happen. And as you get older, it starts affecting your health. So how can I now it's like, okay, how do I balance all this, but maintain, a good, healthy lifestyle? And as you said before, if you're at rock bottom and you've lost everything, but if you've lost your good health, then you've lost everything.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really important whilst we're running this marathon, is to take time to smell the roses, stay healthy, both mind and body.
Look after yourself. Yeah.
And as you said before, if you do hit rock bottom in your businesses, it's not the end of the world. I mean, if you think about legacy, right? A person's legacy, yes, for some people, their businesses will become their legacy. Like, this guy built this amazing business, amazing empire. And for a lot of people, that might be utopia, right? And I was asked years ago, don't you want to leave a legacy behind? And I said, in what way? Well, don't you want to be remembered for something? When you leave this world, don't you want to be remembered for something? And I said to him, I'll give you a really small example of my grandfather, who, may rest in peace, he never came to Australia. He lived in Lebanon, a little village, and the legacy he had was everyone in that little hamlet, in the little village, absolutely loved him and respected him. And with the well-mannered people, he was respected. With the naughty elements in the village, he was respected. And no one had a bad word to say about him.
Yeah.
And so
I told a story on LinkedIn the other day about my grandfather and his reputation. And I think he actually commented maybe on LinkedIn or Instagram or whatever. But I would much rather be known as a good man than someone. That's why I was separating being a good man and being known for greatness, or being someone that people like. For example, some people want to be known as Steve Jobs, who's this visionary, blah blah blah. But as a person, wasn't known to be a very nice man. He was quite a savage man, very ruthless because he was just so tunnel visioned on what. And look, each to their own. Some people want to do that, and some people want that sort of that path. But I would if I could only choose one, right? And I don't know, there aren't too many examples of people who get to do both, and I'm sure there are some. And maybe in our culture, in our society, we don't value the people who were known for being good men or women enough. We value the outliers that, whatever it is, made the iPhone or were responsible for doing these things that are they've transcended sort of just a business. They're part of culture now. Apple's, just in my wrist and my phone and my laptop bag, there's 4 or 5 Apple products,
Well, it's like, if making money or running a successful business is going to compromise who I am as a person, what my values are, then I don't want it.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
I feel exactly the same.
There are a lot of amazing people who are not in business.
Yeah.
A lot of people who live a very simple life, and it comes down to one word: contentment.
Yeah.
There's an Arabic saying that says, contentment is an immeasurable treasure. And so some people find their contentment way earlier before others. And we might say, they live a very simple life, but no, they live a very content life.
Yeah.
And they're happy and they're at peace with themselves.
Full. Yeah.
And they're full, exactly right.
They're full. The cup is full. They don't need more.
Yeah. And so sometimes there's a risk that when people are building businesses to try to fill their cup with financial success.
And using a leaking bucket analogy, if you haven't, or a boat. But let's use the bucket for a second. If there's a hole at the bottom of the bucket, your bucket will never be full. Right?
Correct.
You can keep pouring water in it. It's just going to keep leaking out. You'll never truly be happy.
Yeah.
You'll fill the bucket for a minute when you sort of put the water pressure high enough. But it's just, until you learn to patch the holes at the bottom of the bucket, you'll never be happy. And that's beautiful. There's a lot of great literature in Arabic. Some of Khalil Gibran's stuff.
Phenomenal. He transcended his time.
Yeah.
But going back to your bucket analogy, you have to empty that bucket in order to fix that hole.
Yes.
So that in itself is so meaningful in terms of the conversation we're having. But it's life's one big journey, and I think life has to be infused into your business life, into your work life, but also it shouldn't dictate business. It's very important. I keep talking about compartmentalizing and all the files that are in my head, right? And it's like a PC with 1,000 files open all at once. It'll crash.
Yeah. CPU usage. Someone was laughing at me the other day because I referred to my brain as a computer, and they're like, only someone in tech would do that. And actually, I think it was another tech founder. I think it was Angus from Quickly, the mortgage broking serviceability tool. And I was just talking about like bandwidth, and I was using all these terms, and he's like, but it's true, even is it Bruce Almighty when he opens the filing cabinet?
And it just goes,
if that's not my brain, I don't know what is. But it is like that. If you've got too many tabs open on your browser, if you've got, too many windows open, your CPU usage is 86%, 96%, you don't have the bandwidth or the compute power to do those remaining tasks and be present in the moment and take your kids to football or soccer or, coach them or teach them life lessons or whatever, because you just can't take on more.
Absolutely. So, you can't focus on all those things at once. So, I'm involved in Major Football. I'm on the board of a football club and heavily involved in that football club. And people say, where do you find the time? I said, well, that's a file that gets attended to, and I do what I can, and I commit all the energy that I can to my role there. But that's complementary to what I do because I'm utilizing my skill set in a non-profit way. And if I didn't do that, then I'd be, I wouldn't be the person I am if I wasn't transferring some of the knowledge I have to help run this football club better and advance it and be a catalyst for change in the club, but also to provide an avenue for our children to have time away from studies and everything else in between, because that in itself is great to keep the mind sort of clear. And I think it sort of flows on with what we were saying before. Like, we also need our time away from work and away from all the things we do in business to get the clarity of mind, then to be able to be better in our businesses, to make better decisions because we've got clarity. So,
and sometimes the learnings you take from seeing how other businesses are run, you go, how does that apply in my business?
Yeah.
And then you sort of go and take it, and you're like, there might be 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 things in there that go, actually, they didn't do that pretty bad. They do that pretty good,
Yeah.
But zooming out or getting into that the helicopter hovering analogy you used before, zooming out of your business, getting out of the weeds for a little bit is a really healthy thing to do.
Yeah.
And, I think that helps when you are struggling to find what is the next thing I can do to move the needle, or, zooming out is a really good way to do that. Like, what's the strategy behind what we're doing, but then also what are the tactics to get us to that, to that point. What are some of the biggest mistakes that you see, whether it's new business owners or young business owners, or what are some of the most common mistakes they make, whether it's to do with the structure of the business, they get bad advice early. Like, just talk us through some of the most common, where you look at it and you go, oh yeah, you've done what everyone else has done and gone down the wrong path.
There's a myriad of things. First things first is a lot of the younger people in business, they have a best mate. We're going in business, we're doing X, Y, Z. No, we're brothers. No problems will ever happen. And for us, like, hang on, time out. Do you have a shareholder agreement? Oh, no, nothing. You need to go and get this done ASAP. And so we found that quite a few of these young guys that are going, or guys and girls for that matter, who go into business, don't look at, it's so easy, it's very easy to go into business. Set up a structure, set up a company, get an ABN if you're a sole trader. But it's the exit part from a multi-owner business, which is very, very messy. So that's number one. Number two, people who are new in business, they get a success overnight.
Yep.
Or in their eyes, success overnight, right? And so they're making good revenue. And all of a sudden, they start asking questions about luxury cars, about, all these wacky and wonderful things they want to spend money on. We say, cool your jets. You're still in an embryonic stage of your business. And I look at it, and I refer to it as an embryo because it's like, it's so early on in your business life cycle that you need to play the long game. And so you can't be going and financing. Sorry, I know this probably goes against what your business does. But.
No, not at all. Well, we look, you might think we're crazy, but when we see the young kid that's trying to buy a luxury car or whatever, like we often question them and be like, because we have responsible lending obligations,
of course.
right? I'm going to put some kid into a Ferrari or a Lambo because he can afford the $4,000, $5,000 a month. Mate, do you want me to introduce you to a mortgage broker? Like, maybe you should buy property, and then if your property's, generating enough cash flow for you to do this, and there's an order of things that is responsible. And look, don't get me wrong, I love cars. I'm a absolute car nut. Yeah. We have a racing simulator in our office, for God's sake.
I've seen that, yeah.
But sort of could I afford to buy a supercar? Maybe, but maybe at some point I'll get there. I don't feel like we do well enough that I wouldn't blink at that money.
Is it responsible?
No, it's not. Absolutely,
and
it's
that's
not.
The thing. I mean, and that's what some of the younger sort of brigade They understand that,
you look at it and you go, oh, the repayment is going to be $4 or $5 a month, $6,000, whatever it is. And if you're generating $100K a month, you go, it's 5% of my revenue. I can afford it. But the thing is, you shouldn't look at it like that. You should be looking at it as like, what's a responsible thing for me to do? Build some cash reserves. If I have cash reserves, could I acquire another business and like growth by acquisition? Could I invest the money elsewhere?
Playing the long game.
Yeah,
playing
exactly.
the long game. And
what if there's another lockdown situation or whatever? Like, how protected am I if I, if my major, like even business owners don't look at like concentration risk. Like, I get all this business, I get all this blah, blah, blah. And they've got like one or two suppliers that pay them 100% of their money. What if both of them at the same time go bankrupt and all the money they owe you disappears, you know?
I mean, there's no question about that. And making hay while the sun's out. I mean, I guess and obviously more mature businesses, if you look at them, a lot of them probably over the years have refined and have learned from their errors and been through, for example, FBT reviews because they've done, they've got assets in businesses they shouldn't be. But I think more mature businesses, I think they sort of, I think one of the things is resting on their laurels and not reading, not necessarily the room, not reading the market, not reading their industry, and becoming cocky and letting their ego dictate the way forward. And also, because of that, they stop hiring people who have certain skills that they don't have. And, surround yourself with people who are smarter than you, sometimes as a business leader, for certain things in your business is so important. Because what they're going to bring to your business is a totally different dynamic. And so not having the latitude to hire someone who can bring a skill set that you don't have shouldn't be a threat to you or your business.
Yeah.
It should be an opportunity. And I think also certain businesses need to also know when the time is right to exit the business.
Yep.
So not many people talk about that because, hey, it's a cash cow, we're doing well, but certain trends will come to an end. It's like someone who sets up a cafe or a chicken shop or a restaurant for that matter. At what point do they know it's reached its peak? Some will keep on reinventing themselves and they have an enduring business. But certain businesses need to know that, hey, we need to look at the end game. And look, we've got clients from all walks of life, like medical, pharmaceutical, childcare centres, civil construction, you name it. And so restaurants, cafes. So certain businesses, different businesses have got different lifespans. And I think being ignorant to the fact that certain businesses, if you don't wake up, that business will be doomed. And seeing the flashing lights, but also, I think taking the time to listen to your advisors who tell you, listen, we've got some issues here in your business. You need to back off spending X, Y, Z. Let's look at your staff resourcing. Let's look at your staff utilization. Let's look at all these things. But just listening.
Yeah.
But also, don't just listen. Take the advice, and if you're not sure, by all means, go and get a second opinion. Because I'd much prefer to see that business survive and then thrive rather than it just dissolve and it affects so many families that rely on that business.
Yeah.
So
that's good advice. Yeah. Don't buy the Lambo. You'll know when the time is right to buy the Lambo because you probably won't want the Lambo.
Yeah.
That's the honest truth. When you reach a certain point and the bucket's full and there's no holes in the bucket, you don't.
The Lambo has to be bought in your personal name and not in the company, right?
Yeah.
So if you're not financially in a position personally
to do it,
with the right assets, the right taxable income, then you're not in a position to buy it.
Yeah.
Because
that's great advice.
Any sane accountant, business advisor would not allow you to buy it in your business. Just because your business has got X, Y, hundreds of $1,000s in the bank account, it's not your money.
It's the business's money. And
it's a business money.
If you're trying to build to, maybe not necessarily setting out to, from day one, I'm going to sell it. It should be something that you consider. that, you know, if at any point in time there was an opportunity, you should always be deal ready. You know, if someone had an opportunity that said, I'm going to write you X, Y, Z check, and they look at it and you got all these personal assets that you've got car payments coming out on, they're going to go, this is a mess, like, and walk away from it. So you do need to make sure that you've set it up with a clean structure, that you're not mixing personal and business. The business should be like its own person.
Separate legal entity.
And you should basically be paying yourself a certain amount of wage.
Absolutely.
You know, like you're an employee. That's really, if you're a shareholder, that's what you are. If you're a director, you're basically an employee of the shareholders, right?
Yeah.
So, that's great advice. And I don't know if there's anything else that you kind of want to touch on around that. What maybe we touch on what are some of the good decisions that new business owners make that you go, okay, you're on the right path, or you get this.
I think business operators that respect their business, I say that a lot. And what do you mean? I respect my business. Well, they reinvest in their business. They don't use the business as a funnel to keep on stripping value out of it. And so they keep on fine-tuning their business. They keep on reinvesting in their business. And they're happy to take home a fixed salary, but they're playing the long game.
Yep.
And so businesses that get that and play the long game and see value, that, you know, they want to build that business so that at some point in time, if anyone wants to come and offer to buy that business, it's sellable and there's value in it. And you know, I've got, you know, a couple of clients that have recently sold businesses, but you know, and they changed the way they do business, and they changed the way in which they I guess ran the business on a day-to-day basis, and we're able to get a great sale price on the businesses. But again, that took 2 or 3 years to implement change and to run the business in a way that it was ready to be packaged.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there's you know, businesses that just, I think they just get the fact that it's a separate legal entity, but they also listen. They listen to the advice that their accountants give them. They also read up a lot. They probably jump on social media, keynote speakers and motivational speakers, and they sort of curate a lot of their own research. And they're open to being open-minded. I think is so important. Being open to learning, and then you know, I love when someone sends me an email saying, "Hey, look, can we look at, you know, setting up an SMSF, or can we look at also what are my franking credits sitting at?"
Yeah.
You know, rather than coming to me with a problem. So someone who's forward-thinking and has clarity of mind. So. But yeah, look,
it's the ideal customer, right? Or the ideal client, I should say.
Yeah.
But yeah,
they come to us with the sexy stuff.
One of the things that we do on here is a bit of a tradition. And then if there's anything else you want to cover off after you do this, you're more than welcome to. But is we get the guests to do a 60-second pitch. So, I mean, I'm not going to time you, but basically give us, you know, in 60 seconds or less, why should somebody choose Saab Partners as their accounting advice and everything else that you do, right? So I'll give you sort of a bit of time to think, and then we'll go 3, 2, 1.
I'm not much of a salesman.
It might come out sort of more as what your value proposition is, and that's totally fine as well. So
it's very simple.
Yeah.
I don't think I need time to think about it. What you see is what you get. It's that simple. I think at Saab Partners it's ingrained in us, honesty and integrity above all. We're not salesmen and saleswomen. We won't sell you a furphy. If we're saying we're going to deliver something, you can bet your bottom dollar we'll deliver it. We're not out there to rip people off. Never have, never will be driven purely by the dollar. And we're, honestly speaking, it's just a very simple way of doing business, and just being honest with people. Just honesty, integrity above all. Yes, I'll come up here and say to you, we know our shit inside out and we're almighty and great and everything. But at the end of the day, if you want someone who's real, someone who'll be honest with you, someone who will tell it to you as it is, you want to sugarcoat it and just tell you all the good stuff because, you know, we want to keep this relationship. We'll tell you how it is when things are wrong. But you know, I think I'm here purely just to sort of have a chat with someone who, you know, with yourself, because I've enjoyed seeing your journey, and I think your values resonate a lot with what we do and how we do it. And you know, very early on in the piece when we were dealing with you in your previous capacity, was just you just the honesty, just the compassion and empathy, and you're not driven by the dollar sign. Yes, you're running a business, and the ultimate goal of a business is to return a profit, but that isn't the be all end all.
Yeah.
That's a byproduct of you doing all the right things to your stakeholders, both internal and external. And I think that's exactly what we do. There are times where we'll pay out of our own pocket to preserve a relationship.
A lot of people can't get their head around that.
Look, I think it's so important, and it happened recently.
We had a recent scenario where the deal was referred to us by two different sources. They're both our partners, and they basically started fighting over it, thinking that we were just gonna pick one of them. And I was like, "That's all right. We'll forfeit our half of the commission, and we'll pay you both guys on it. And no worries. We value you both as partners." They almost like were shocked by that, and I was like, "Yeah."
Playing the long game.
But like each of those relationships is worth way more than the sum total of that one transaction. And for me to go, no, I've got to pay them because I gave it first some arbitrary reason why I've got to pay one and not the other. That's just so short-sighted.
But even the PR behind it, pushing aside the dollar value of what they represent to your business, the PR around, you know, having a disgruntled person who then disseminates some negative press about your brand, and
then the reverse of that, where the positive PR by doing the right thing, and in my opinion, that is the right thing to do. It's like, how do you possibly? So we're doing a transaction. We're basically doing it for nothing. In fact, we're doing it at a loss because we have overheads that we need to, you know. But the positive PR, the trust that we've built with that partner, that's way more valuable than the commission that we go on a deal. We're not doing it for commission because we're a business, and obviously we have costs and all those kinds of things. But at the end of the day, if you're committed to a referral channel and referral partnership, that means something. That means more than just you give me a deal and I'll pay you for it. That means we're committed to this relationship that we have.
Absolutely. It's a relationship.
And, you know, like there's a reason why, you know, last month, you know, we're still young, like we're 3.5 years in. But our number one source of business last month, and it's been growing pretty much every month since we started, was repeat business. There's a reason for that. You know, we put so much effort into making sure that we give 5-star service, and forget about the Google reviews and all that kind of stuff. Like we obviously 5-star, like the actual service, the actual happy customers, the actual effort we put into making sure that we're doing everything we're saying we're doing. That's worth so much to those people. And so repeat business, now our number one source of business. And then we have like only a small amount of high concentration with partners, like very small pockets, and not one of our partners, like we don't have a concentration risk. We've deliberately set up the business so that we're not reliant on one partner. And maybe in the early days of the business, if we had one of our big partners call us up and say, you know, we're not going to deal with you anymore, it probably would have hurt. But these days, if a partner is not performing or something like that, or partner, you know, wants to go somewhere else and try something new, like it literally we don't feel it. And we never want that situation, but equally, you need to build your business so that you're not reliant on one source of business. And if any one of them shuts down, gets bought, you know, relationship changes, whatever the circumstances, you need to be prepared that, you know, you may not have that source of revenue tomorrow. Therefore, if your business is totally reliant on that source of revenue based on your headcount, all that kind of stuff.
That's a great strength in your business, no question about that. And, you know, I'm sure you've done a SWOT analysis on a regular basis in your business, and you know, you look at those key areas where, you know, do I have a concentration risk on, as you said, in the earlier days? And you'd be shitting yourself in shit. Man, if we stuff this up, how we're going to survive the next 3 or 4 months.
Yep.
And I think as businesses mature, you identify those key risks, and you don't necessarily eliminate them, but what you do is you water down the effect of what that risk will have on your business. And it's, I think the way that you deal with it is that you've got to spread your risk, and repeat business obviously means that you're doing something right. Your service proposition offering is spot on. The value proposition for your clients is there, and I think that's what it's all about. It's establishing long-term relationships. If someone's in it to make a dollar real quick smart, then they'll be out of business in no time. But that's obviously driven by your values as well, and the way you lead your team. I mean,
and look, it's not all. I know, like, people comment all the time and say, "Oh, it looks like it's going really well," and like the reality of it is, we have a very good marketing team, which is obviously gives us a very strong presence in the market. But no business is ever always going well. There's always difficult times. The economy has shifted. There's rising interest rates. There's always challenges. In fact, our business has only ever known challenges. Started it right after the first lockdown, and then had the second lockdown, and then had rising interest rates, then all sorts of untold, issues, whether it's internal or external facing. But it's just, you need to be resilient. You need to make sure that if you need to take a step backwards, you do. Make the changes. If you need to, get external advice because you've run out of ideas, like, you need to be willing to do that. But also, you need to be extremely careful of people who will try and give you advice, but it's not with your best interests in mind. It's driven by an agenda and all kinds of things. So you need to be able to identify who the weasels or the foxes are around you, and because there are no shortage of people that will clap for you on the way up, but as soon as they feel like you're doing a bit better than them, they'll
cut you at the knees,
try and cut you down, or try and find ways to sort of make your success illegitimate. Or the classic example is people who will take credit on the way up, and then as soon as you hit the first speed bump,
they'll point the finger.
Yeah, it happens, but it's like, that's business.
Well, they say self-promotion and self-preservation.
Yeah, well, they say what's the other one I love? Someone said it to me the other day, and they say it's something to do with success has many founders, or success has many fathers, and failure has. I've just butchered it. Yeah. So anyway, the saying is basically, success, everyone's there, everyone wants to take credit for it. Soon as there's resistance, soon as there's failures. Success has many fathers, and failure is an orphan. Yeah, yes. That's the one. So anyway, I think I've kind of committed to myself to make sure that where possible, I'm sharing the I wouldn't say low, but I'm sharing the challenges as much as I'm sharing the wins. Sharing the losses or the lessons, rather than say losses, say lessons. Sharing the lessons that I pick up along the way, as opposed to just, wow, look at all these shiny things. And I do this sort of accountability report every 6 months. So at the end of every calendar year and at the end of every financial year, I post, and it's just, I did it for me because when I started this business, I did want it to be something that had more enterprise value than just myself. It was, I didn't name the company after myself. I don't, yes, I'm the founder. Yes, I'm sort of out there, but I built that over the last 10 years, my reputation, and the business needs to be more than just my personal reputation. It needs to be about the team members. And so where I can get them in front of the camera, like Triana, our partnerships manager, where I can get them out in front of mortgage brokers and referral partners and stuff, I do that. But I started with the intent that I'm going to run this with the accountability of maybe not quite, but the accountability of a public company. You know, like this is what we do. This is, you know, how responsible we are with the money. This is where every dollar is accounted for. This is, I post the numbers. If there's growth, there's growth. If there's loss, if we've gone backwards, post them too, you know. And I think when you do that, you know, you're accepting that no matter what happens, if it's 300% growth, or if it's 8% growth, or if it's 100% downsizing or right sizing, or, you know, whatever you want to call it, then you wear it. And, you know, you might get the accolades on the way up and people are clapping for you. And then you might get the sucked in on the way down. And that's just what it is.
That goes back to Julian Fayard's honesty, mate.
Yeah.
Because you're being true to yourself, but also you're sharing that journey with people.
Yeah.
I think it's very raw and very brave to do. And it's interesting how you mentioned you not wanting to have a name associated with the business. And this is a thing where we've sort of looked at ourselves. I mean, Saab Partners was built, you know, Saab's my surname.
Yeah.
But the business today does not rely on only Saab.
Yeah.
I've got an amazing team, and there's a while we were toying with changing to SP Partners or SP Advisory or something to remove the Saab.
But also, let me just say that one of the reasons why it makes total sense for it to be Saab Partners is because you do have a fantastic standing. We've hardly talked about that, but anybody I've ever spoken to, the way they speak about you, it's like almost like you see their face light up. And I'm not saying that because you're sitting right here. I'm saying that because that's the genuine truth. So there is that, like, I've got to be honest, like my surname, you know, maybe not nice to say this, but I'm not very proud of it for a couple of reasons. One is I was raised by my mum, and single mum, raised 5 kids. Very, very strong woman. Right?
Amazing woman.
And that's my father's surname. And my father wasn't a very great man. But there's also other Fayads, and you know, not related to them, but you know, their reputation isn't. I've met some of them, and they seem like great people, but in business, their reputation is not very strong. Yeah. Right. In your situation, I think it's very different. You have a lot to be proud of, because that Saab is like what you've earned that reputation, and you could put something else on there, but at the end of the day, that's everything, that all the success that the business has had and all the clients, it's because these people trust you, and there is some value in that name. Yeah. And I know you're sort of less not less involved, it's a bad way to put it, but it's less reliant on you. But the values that everybody underneath you that's coming up, and these people that have been with you for so long, they live the values of that name, and so the name means something. In my case,
it's very humbling what you're saying. Honestly, I mean, there's one thing or two things I'm really bad at, is receiving a compliment and also giving one back. Right. Yeah. So there was a what was it? Previously, I should say, when someone gives me a compliment, I reply back with Merry Christmas. Yeah. It's just the most random thing to say at the most opportune time of the year, right? Because you sort of want to deflect away from the fact. But look, I'm certainly very proud of what we're building, and it's important. Like, we're still building. And a friend of mine was saying to me a few weeks back. She said to me, "My God, people your age are sort of dialing it down. You're going the opposite way." I said, "I've never looked at it that way." But I'm certainly very proud of what we're building, right? And I think you are right that I'm big on those values being ingrained in everything we do, no question about that. But for the same token, like with Julian Fayard, for example, I think there's a positive spin you can take on this, right? Where, and I know, and I'm not saying it's just in front of you, you know this, because everyone who mentions your name speaks of you in such a high regard, because you're just a freaking phenomenally decent amazing human being, right? But you can also
Merry
be,
Christmas.
but I don't think you realise, right? You can be a trailblazer with a surname.
Yeah.
We can say, you know what? I'm going to be the can't swear with your car. No,
You can swear, yeah.
I'll be the motherfucker that's going to turn this upside down, and change the course of what this surname represents.
Yeah.
I'm going to correct the previous years of all the bads of what everyone else has done.
Yeah.
And you know what? Rightly or wrongly, there's obviously a story, a backstory.
Yeah, of course.
You know what? Everyone,
and that's part of it, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to say it right now. If I think adversity builds character, and so I have a lot to be thankful for to my father, because there's a saying that says, there's a sort of alcoholic father and two brothers, like two sons, I should say, and one of them drinks a lot and the other one doesn't drink at all. And you say that somebody interviews and says, why don't you drink? And he says, well, I learned from my father. And the other one he says, well, why do you drink so much? I learned from my father. So you can deal with the adversity in two different ways, and you can be grateful for the lessons that you've learned, and for, despite your adversity growing up and all the rest of it, you can be thankful for those lessons and be thankful for the fact that it made you who you are today.
Absolutely.
So I'm never going to say, okay, I wish that didn't happen, or I wish this and wish that. It's terrible what happened, but the reality of it is I will do my best to bring honor to the surname. I'll do my best to make sure that my kids are proud of the surname.
Absolutely.
I'll do my best to make sure that people who know me, so I'll do my best. And I do think that you can set the surname onto a path where there is some respect given to it and things like that. And
it takes one generation,
to
change the course of it.
It very well could.
And how you mentioned your kids, because I'm sure they look up to you. You're Superman in their eyes, right? And so everything you're doing, they're going to learn from you.
Yeah.
So I think there's definitely a lot of things that you can. And look, I mean, on the topic, I grew up with 4 sisters. There's 5 of us in the family, but your mum is absolutely phenomenal, raising 5 children single-handedly. I mean, that's just, you tip your hat to a brave, strong woman that is resilient enough to. I mean, if you're the product of
she did a pretty good job,
she did a mighty fine job.
Probably helped that I had an older brother too, who was probably I learned from his mistakes more than I needed to make them myself. So
he made the mistakes.
He made the mistakes, and I got to be the beneficiary watching him make the mistakes. And a few years younger than him, so I got to watch him make them and go, all right, maybe don't do that. Maybe don't surround myself with these people or that people. But my brother probably wore the sort of more of the because he had no father figure. Whereas me and my younger brother, like, we had our older brother to look up to and sort of see how you should act and behave. And my older brother's, like, I'm so lucky. Everybody in our family, all 5 of us, like, just phenomenal people. Like, we don't have a black sheep in our family. My older brother is a caring, loving father. The hardest work you will ever meet. Nice. He's a ride or die. He'll be the guy that will help you move house. He'll carry every last thing. He'll be the guy that will help you if your car's broken down.
Amazing.
That's my older brother. He'll take the shirt off his back, you know what I mean, to give it to you. And my other brothers and sisters are exactly the same, but they learned that from him. They learned those traits from him. So as much as he got into a bit of trouble when he was younger, a bit of a smart ass, whatever, everybody learned the good things and maybe didn't have to make those mistakes. And over time, he eventually learned, and he's married, 2 beautiful kids. But so there's a lot of
influential people in our lives.
For sure. And they're around you everywhere. You just got to know who to take inspiration from, and know who sort of has the values of a person who's good at the core. Because if they have a good heart, you can look past the blemishes that maybe they're not a perfect person, and nobody's perfect.
Which we all have,
Yeah, we all have. But yeah, it's an absolute pleasure catching up with you.
Mate,
and
likewise.
we'll do it again soon. A lot to talk about even off camera. So
Absolutely, mate. Look,
always a pleasure. You're a gentleman.
Absolute pleasure, mate. And mate, we should do this more often. I mean, it's I love what you're doing with LoanOptions.ai, and mate, wishing you continued success. I know, as we said, it's not always a smooth road, but if anyone's equipped and resilient, I think you're in for a mighty fine business career. And mate, absolute blessings to you and your family. You're an absolute gentleman.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.